session celebrates those journeys of courage, reinvention, and voice. We are delighted to welcome GeetArsh Kaur, a life coach who began as a Montessori educator and later moved into personal branding and image coaching. She founded the Skill School to help individuals embrace their authentic selves, drawing on more than 2 decades of experience in her work as a TEDx speaker. Her forthcoming book is titled Little Things That Matter. Joining her is Madhureeta Anand, an accomplished filmmaker whose work includes narrative feature films, documentaries, and creative writing. Her debut novel, Krishna Circus, received wide recognition, and she is also a strong advocate for women and children's rights through the safety platform Free for Safety. We also welcome Subhashini Ali, born in Kanpur in 1947 to INL leaders Captain Lakshmi Sehgal and Colonel Prem Sehgal. She joined the CPIM and became a founding member of AIDWA. She was elected to the Lok Sabha and has remained a prominent voice in political activism and women's rights. Moderating this session is Richa S Mukherjee, a TEDx speaker, award-winning writer, and former journalist and advertising professional. She is the author of 5 novels and has written extensively for leading publications, including The Times of India, Midday, The Asian Age, The New, Indian Express, Bombay Times, and Hindustan Times. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome GeetArsh Kaur, Madhureeta Anand, Subhashini Ali, and Richa S Mukherjee. One more reminder to all the present audience here, there are stalls on your right which have some local food, handicrafts, and souvenirs for you to take home. And yes, you can photograph yourself in this beautiful Kumar Mountains, and you can also have photographs with your authors who are right behind you with their books. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Vasu, for such a thrilling session. Thank you. And I also empathize. I understand the pain that 15-year-old you went through after that book got deleted, because last year, unfortunately, one of my books got deleted and I was in pajamas eating ice cream for 3 months. So I can understand. So welcome. And after that thrilling session, what I can tell you now, that it's time to simmer down, observe, listen, cogitate, and be inspired in a completely different way. If there is one quote that summarizes the heft of my company at the moment, it is this, that, life expands or shrinks in proportion, in direct proportion, in fact, to one's courage. And there is absolutely no dearth of courage or conviction when it comes to the wonderful women I'm going to be in conversation today. We are going to, as the session promises, we're going to be mapping their realms. And I promise you, you're going to leave as inspired as I am and many others who have fallen in their paths. Speaking of paths, let's go back right to the beginning. When we are growing up, as it's a very foundational time where the people in our current, in our immediate environment at that point in time, and early life influences are very important to help us pick our path, and spark and ignite the right fires at a nascent stage. And it's sometimes a person who you emulate, who you want to emulate. It is somebody who is in your corner against all odds, and it's different for everyone. So I would like to begin with Subhashini ma'am. I had some freedom fighters in my own family, and I always have goosebumps when I'm hearing their stories, and I'm rapt, and I just sit on the ground, palti marke, and I just want to hear those tales. You have had 2 freedom fighters in your own home. I was, going through some of your interviews, and can I please tell you, it's a fangirl moment. I love the grace and the dignity and the gentleness with which you say the most profound things. So yeah, I just put it out there. Having 2 freedom fighters in your own home for a little girl, that can be absolutely transformative. So could you please, in your own way, tell us, was it along with them? Was it anyone else? What has shaped your path?
So should I tell the truth or should I resort to
Ma'am,
BS?
absolute truth,
Okay.
no BS.
Okay. So anyway, I had this Rani of Jhansi lady as my mother. And I had Prem Sehgal, who was locked up in the Red Fort, as my father. And I'd also like to tell you, because there's something even more incredible actually, that my Nani, who was married practically illiterate at the age of 14, was one of the 15 women members of the Constituent Assembly. But what I'd like to tell you all is that these great women were not necessarily good mothers, and I'm very happy that my mother was not a good mother. When I see good mothers today, I'm really happy that my mother was not one of them. Because we grew up, we got, took our knocks, we didn't take ourselves at all seriously, because my mother never took us seriously. She was a doctor and she used to say, भाई ये बीमार पड़ते हैं तो इनको तो ठीक करने वाले बहुत डॉक्टर हैं, लेकिन जिनका मैं इलाज करती हूँ उनके लिए कोई नहीं है, इसलिए इनको दूसरे डॉक्टर को बुला करके ठीक कर दो. So that was, I think, something very important for me, and it's helped me to kind of stay on my feet. Now, the other thing I'd like to say is that it sounds wonderful and people will say, oh, why are you talking about, women's equality and the discrimination against women when all of you are examples that's all over now, that, things have changed. Your grandmother made it to the Constituent Assembly, your mother was a doctor, went on to become Jhansi Rani. That is so wrong. And that is such an unfair and wrong way of looking at things and society. I live in Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh has seen in the last couple of years a 14% increase in rapes of women and young girls who have mostly been killed also. Increase. What are we seeing in our country today? Women in the workforce have come down to 34%, which is like a real low in the world. So I just like to say to you, please try to remember where we are and where our government is taking us. This is a government led by people who in 1949 said, we do not accept this constitution. We do not accept this constitution. Why? Because they did not accept the principle of equality. They said, and I'm not saying it, they said, and they've written about it, we believe in Manusmriti and we want to have a system of governance and justice based on the Manusmriti. Now, I don't know how many of you have read the Manusmriti or read about it, but I seriously think you should read it. Just like I used to think that we should read our constitution, at least the preamble is wonderful, we the people of India. No Devi, no Devta, no big man, no king, no queen, no prime minister, no president. We the people of India give ourselves this constitution. I think that's great. For a country like ours where we are brought up that somebody else who's big is doing something for us, it's wonderful to know that we the people of India gave ourselves a constitution. So that's important to read. But now perhaps it's even more important to read the Manusmriti. The Manusmriti is a Shastra based on nothing but the worst kind of inequality of all kinds. And as far as women are concerned, no woman is to have any rights at all. Even upper caste women are not supposed to. And there are lots of things written that they are very bad, A woman is just so bad that if she is given the slightest amount of freedom, she'll just run after the first man who comes along, etc., etc. ये मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ, ये मनुस्मृति कह रहा है. तो इसलिए इनको बिल्कुल बंधन में रखना, इनको बिल्कुल नियंत्रण में रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. पैदा होती हैं तो बाप के नियंत्रण में, उसके बाद भाई के नियंत्रण में, पति के नियंत्रण में, पति मर जाए तो बेटे के नियंत्रण में, लेकिन नियंत्रण में रखना अति आवश्यक है. क्यों? असली कारण क्या है? असली कारण यह नहीं है कि हम मर्दों के पीछे भागते हैं. अरे जिंदगी भर तो मर्द हम लोगों के पीछे भागे. तो असली कारण क्या है? नियंत्रण क्यों जरूरी है महिलाओं के लिए? क्योंकि अगर नियंत्रण के बाहर हो जाएंगी तो अपने मन से शादियां करेंगी, और अपने मन से शादियां करेंगी, खास तौर से अगर अपने से तथाकथित छोटी जातियों में शादियां जाके करेंगी, दूसरे धर्मों के लोगों के साथ, म्लेच्छों के साथ शादियां करेंगी, तो फिर वर्ण व्यवस्था का क्या होगा? वर्ण व्यवस्था चौपट हो जाएगी, चरमरा जाएगी। और वर्ण व्यवस्था को जिंदा रखना मनुवादियों का सबसे बड़ा धर्म है, सबसे बड़ा कर्म है। इसलिए अगर आपको इस देश में एक बार फिर, एंड नॉट फॉर आवरसेल्व्स, वी हैव गॉट इट ऑल, we have enough to eat, we have nice clothes to wear, we went to good schools, we even sometimes have decent husbands, we have quite a lot of freedom, we go abroad, blah, blah, blah. So it's not about us. But if we want the women in this country to be free, if we want the women in this country to be equal, then we have got to fight against people who want to destroy what's left of our constitution, which is the only document in this country that promises us some equality, which is the only weapon we have in our fight for equality. And if that is taken away and replaced by the Manusmriti, then the battle is just going to get that much harder. And I just want to end by saying, मैं उत्तर प्रदेश में रहती हूँ, मैंने सुना कि हमारे बघेल जी भी वहीं के हैं, देवरिया के। तो उत्तर प्रदेश के काफी लोग हैं यहाँ। उत्तर प्रदेश में आदर्श सरकार है, ऐसी सरकार है जिसने मतलब लोगों को इतना सुरक्षित कर दिया है, समझ लीजिए कि क्या कहने, और हर घर में शौचालय बना दिया है। अब ये अलग बात है कि पानी नहीं है, सीवर लाइन भी नहीं है। और मैं आपको इस बात को कह करके अपनी बात को खत्म कर रही हूँ। आई कम फ्रॉम कानपुर, विच इज अ बिग सिटी, इट्स नॉट अ विलेज। जस्ट लास्ट मंथ I had to intervene in a case of rape of a 16-year-old girl who lives in Kanpur district in a slightly rural area. She was raped by a cop and 2 other men. It was very difficult to get the FIR done. We got it done. But why was she raped? She was out of her house at 9 o'clock at night. बुरी गंदी लड़की रही होगी। 9 बजे रात को क्या करने गई थी? 9 बजे रात को किससे मिलने गई थी? उन्हीं लोगों से मिलने गई होगी जिन्होंने फिर रेप किया उसके साथ। गलती तो उसी की है। तो मैं उसके घर गई और मैंने पता लगाया कि वो घर से 9 बजे रात को क्यों निकली। वो शौच के लिए निकली थी, टॉयलेट जाने के लिए निकली थी, क्योंकि उसका ही घर नहीं, वहां 50 घर हैं। उन 50 घरों में एक भी टॉयलेट नहीं है। इसलिए जहां टॉयलेट नहीं है वहां अंधेरे में टॉयलेट जाना पड़ता है, या तो भोर में या शाम को। और अंधेरे में हमारे देश में कोई भी औरत जो घर के बाहर है वो सुरक्षित नहीं है। मैं उत्तर प्रदेश के आंकड़े देख रही थी, करीब करीब हर हफ्ते जो रजिस्टर्ड केसेस हैं उन लोगों के साथ रेप होता है जो अपने घर से बाहर शौच के लिए गई हैं। तो ये है सच्चाई। बाकी इसके लिए क्या करना है और लोग बताएंगे।
Thank you so much for speaking with that much honesty, ma'am. But I must tell you, हमारे चक्षु एकदम से खुल गए when I heard you're from Kanpur. हम भी कानपुर से हैं. So can Madhureeta, we've had many conversations about this, but please enlighten them about who crafted the awesomeness here.
I don't know. I think, things get crafted by life. And life is a very good crafter of human beings, as it should be if you let yourself be crafted by it. If you resist it, you become some distorted creature. And when I say you comply with it, I'm not saying you comply with what people say or what people want you to do. But you literally lean into who you are and let it take you, and you'll always then really stand straight, because you're standing in your own skin. But, I just want to, because first of all, just like you said, fan moment, Subhashini is here. But, the clarity with which Subhashini brought forth some points about how safe we are and how unsafe we are, I want to take that just one step forward and say that while we talk about public spaces and being safe and unsafe, But how the mechanics of creating unsafe spaces is actually quite interesting. It starts with looking, the look. So when a woman steps out, you need not rape her. You can just relentlessly stare at her. You can stare at her while she's doing some ordinary things so that she feels like maybe she's not in the right place or maybe she's not wearing something right. You plant doubt. Then the second step is, of course, that if you're in the house and you have to go out, the list of reasons why you shouldn't go out, the list of things you should do before going out will daunt you. And then there is the larger thing where crimes are reported in a certain way. A woman was raped, but who did the raping actually? We don't know, right? A woman was harassed. Who did the harassing? No idea, okay? A woman died of a dowry death. She just died, you know? Nobody killed her. So if for example, we thought about reversing this and we say 2 men raped a woman, a man assaulted a woman, you know, it would change it, but right now it's not. And there is a very good reason why it's not that way. It would be a natural sort of instinct to blame the person who did the crime, right? But you're not. You're constantly transferring it to the victim. Why? So that when you step out, you know that you will be culpable for this. And it creates a kind of PTSD loop, actually. You know, PTSD is a term which is very loosely used now. But basically, it creates a sense of trauma. So every time a woman gets raped, it's your trauma. Because you know it will have a consequence on you. Doesn't matter where it happened. And Subhashini has said that, you know, rape has gone up by these amounts. I mean, already every 15 minutes a woman is sexually assaulted and raped in this country. Already. And then, so there is this whole mechanism almost created for 3 things. When a woman gets assaulted, she will first of all keep quiet. You buy her silence. The second thing is, if she should speak, she has to prove her innocence. She is not there reporting a crime. She is there reporting her innocence, actually. And then the third thing is, of course, you set the system up against her so that she fails. And when she fails, there's another nice message that goes out to women. See now, this is what happens. And this is exactly what has happened with the Epstein files. We are here, we have been receiving a kind of a barrage of information and images and absolutely horrible, just horrible descriptions of what has been done, not just to women, but to babies. And what has happened? No, nothing. Just talk. Lots of talk. The names of the victims are out. The names of the people who actually did the crimes is not. It's not social service. It's a continuation of buying a woman's silence and keeping her silent. But as far as my journey is concerned, I'll just say it in one line. I mean, I went to film school. I decided after film school that perhaps I needed to know more. And so I got into activism. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, entrepreneur. Boring.
Not boring at all. And my take out of everything I've heard till now is just this. बोला जाता है ना, अच्छा है, ज़्यादा बात नहीं करो, बात से बात बढ़ती है, but कभी बात करना ज़रूरी है, because that is when these kind of conversations happen. GeetArsh, I know that your journey does not fit into any template. I want you to tell us, there's something very unique that you do. What inspired you to even think about your area of expertise and, you know, making people feel good from the inside, and who inspired you?
Thank you, Richa. I'm extremely honored to be sharing platform with these 3 wonderful women who are so accomplished with the power of pen, voice, and thoughts. And बहुत खुशकिस्मत हूँ कि मैं यहाँ स्टेज पर बैठी हूँ और आप सबसे बात कर रही हूँ। बात हो रही थी अर्ली चाइल्डहुड इन्फ्लुएंसेस की। मैं एक बहुत छोटे शहर से आती हूँ जहाँ पर एक्सपोजर मुझे बहुत कम मिला बहुत सब चीज़ों का। मेरे स्कूल में भी इतनी कोई अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं थी मेरे लिए जहाँ पर इवन मैं कोई एक स्पोर्ट्स परसू कर सकूँ। सो गेटिंग इनटू द फ्रेम ऑफ कि मैं क्या करियर बनाना चाहती हूँ अपना, वो कभी ख्याल मेरे जहन में किसी ने डाला ही नहीं। मैं बहुत इंस्पायर्ड थी मेरी दादी को लेकर, क्योंकि मुझे लगता था कि वो कितना अच्छा घर संभालती हैं, वो कितनी अच्छी औरत है, उनको कितना अच्छा हर चीज़ों को संभालना आता है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट संभालने आते हैं, घर का ख्याल रखती हैं, बच्चों का ख्याल रखती हैं, हमारा ख्याल रखती हैं। और मेरे दादाजी जो हमेशा किताबों से घिरे रहते थे, सो उन्होंने कभी मुझे कहा नहीं कि तुम ये पढ़ो या ये पढ़ो, क्योंकि वो उर्दू में पढ़ते थे और मुझे उर्दू आती नहीं थी, तो कभी उनकी किताब में खोल के पढ़ भी नहीं पाई कि वो क्या पढ़ रहे हैं। खैर, उनको मैंने उर्दू में पढ़ते हुए देखा, और मेरी दादी रात को ग्रह शोभा पढ़ती थी सोने से पहले। तो वो जब ग्रह शोभा पढ़ती थी तो मुझे लगता था कि कुछ तो पढ़ के सो रही हैं, लेकिन तो मेरे दादाजी रात को अपनी बत्ती जला के अपनी किताब पढ़ते थे, दादी मेरी अपनी किताब पढ़ती थी। तो आई थिंक किताबों का सिलसिला मेरा उनसे शुरू हुआ, जो भी बहुत लेट मेरी लाइफ में मेरे आया, जहां मैंने असल में कोई किताब खोल के पढ़ी हो और उसको समझने की कोशिश की हो। तो एम्बिशन, अगर हम बात करें, मैं बिल्कुल भी एम्बिशियस नहीं थी। मुझे नहीं लगता था कि मुझे कुछ करियर बना के कुछ करना है। मुझे लगता था कि मुझे मेरी दादी के जैसे बनना है, कि वो कितनी अच्छी औरत हैं, वो इस सिचुएशन में होंगी तो कैसे चीज़ संभालेंगी, वो इसका कैसे ख्याल रखेंगी। जैसे जैसे लाइफ बढ़ी, हम यहाँ पे अनचार्टेड ड्रीम्स, रेल्म्स, अनमैप्ड स्पेसेस की बात कर रहे हैं। एक किस्सा मैं शायद शेयर करूंगी आपके साथ कि मेरा सबसे बड़ा रिग्रेट अगर लाइफ का कोई रहा है तो वो ये रहा है कि मैं कभी कॉलेज नहीं गई। मैंने वो अपॉर्चुनिटी, वो लाइफ, वो एक्सपोजर देखा ही नहीं जो एक इंसान कॉलेज में जाकर देखता है, जहाँ इतने आप आज़ाद होते हैं ना। स्कूल में आप बंधे हुए होते हैं, कॉलेज में आप आज़ाद होते हैं। तो वो आज़ादी, वो फुर्सत, वो सब मैंने देखा नहीं। ऐसा नहीं कि मैंने पढ़ाई नहीं करी लेकिन मुझे झटका लगा जब आई वेंट टू फिल द फॉर्म ऑफ माई सन। उसके स्कूल के लिए जब वहाँ नीचे लिखा हुआ था फॉर्म पर कि मदर्स क्वालिफिकेशन, तब मुझे लगा कि अरे, यहाँ पर मैं नहीं लिख सकती कि मैं 12th पास हूँ, पढ़ना तो पड़ेगा। तो फिर मैंने वापस पढ़ाई अपनी, इग्नू में एडमिशन लिया मैंने, एंड तब भी मैं बिल्कुल एम्बिशियस नहीं थी। मेरा एक ही मकसद था कि मुझे मेरे बेटे को कभी ये ना लगे कि मेरी माँ पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है। So that was the only reason when I went back to college. But then life happened. I realized that the power of education can do. And that is the time I started teaching young kids. I became a teacher. And once a teacher, always a teacher. I think my heart and soul will always be into teaching. धीरे धीरे इसका काफिला बढ़ता रहा। टीचिंग से मैं मॉन्टेसरी सर्टिफाइड हुई। मॉन्टेसरी सर्टिफाइड होने के बाद मैंने इमेज कंसल्टिंग किया, मैंने सॉफ्ट स्किल्स किया, एंड मैंने अडल्ट्स को पढ़ाना शुरू किया। तो आई थिंक मैं जो इमेज कंसल्टिंग का कोर्स करती हूँ, आप क्लासेस लेती हूँ, सबको लगता है कि बहुत अपीयरेंस मैनेजमेंट पे काम करती है। असल में मैं बहुत पर्सपेक्टिव बिल्डिंग और माइंडसेट चेंज और इन सब पे अंदर से कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग पर बात करना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि हमारा सबसे बड़ा जो चैलेंज है वो डर है। You know, fear is the only thing, but nobody ever tells us that bravery feels like fear. So we have to learn how to be brave, not just feel कि अरे हमें डर लग रहा है. So accepting fear, accepting my vulnerabilities, accepting all my shortcomings made me realize that I'm such a whole person and I can do more. So that's what my journey is all about.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing such a deeply personal story, GeetArsh. And I think it just exemplifies this whole concept of no one size fits all. सबकी अपनी अपनी journeys हैं, and रास्ता कौन क्या पकड़ता है, and where to your final destination, who can say. And thank you so much to topically bring up the fact that influences सिर्फ व्यक्ति नहीं हो सकते, किताबें भी हो सकती हैं. And to the kids and everybody sitting out here, we tend to romanticize this. It's an escape into another world. These fair-haired kids, वो butterbeer कहीं पी रहे हैं and all of that. It's all right. It's not a gendered and closed world, but what it does, like she said, it makes you vulnerable. And because you're vulnerable, it opens your world up as well. It's not just an escape. It helps you absorb everything around you and actually even understand yourself better. So books are also that. I'd like to mention something here about a word which is quite vilified now, representation. मतलब उसको टोकनिज्म के तौर पे आजकल बोला जाता है कि अरे फिल्म एंड सिनेमा में they're showing more women, they're showing more Asians, they're showing more LGBTQ वाले लोग, तो मतलब ये टिक कर दिया. But I genuinely feel that it is very powerful because I think there is something to be said about little girls and women who don't have that courage, who don't have those opportunities, watching you and seeing the women they admire in places of power, with the agency, with the courage of saying things that they could never verbalize. So सबसे पहले I would genuinely ask Subhashini ma'am कि politics is something जो लड़कियों को मतलब politics के नाम से दूर रहना, please, better left. तो ये तो उनके consideration set में आता ही नहीं है. So for somebody who's watching you, आप कभी सोचती हैं कि there are so many eyes on me, मैंने ये किया, and I'm basically leading the charge and it's important?
See, first of all, I think that representation is a right and we have to fight to get that right. And I'm not one of those people who thinks that women are better than men, because women have proved themselves to be as awful as men very often. But in certain ways, they have also been maybe a little better in some ways. I don't know. But anyway, whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. Representation is a right, and we're entitled to it. It is a real shame in our country that we have one of the lowest numbers of women in parliament in the world. And for a long time, people used to think that asking for reservation is very demeaning. Why should we ask for reservation? We're as good as anybody else. So we should make it on our own. And I think that after a lot of hard knocks, we realized that that's not going to happen. And one thing that was inspiring was the reservation at the panchayat and municipal level. Now, of course, there's a lot of proxies. There are a lot of proxies there, a lot of women who are just standing in for their men. That's very true. But it's also true that it has brought about a change in thousands of women, many, many thousands now. And so this getting a critical mass is also what is important. So as I said, once again, I'll say it's not about being better or not, it's our right. But as you come up, I mean, the people who sat in parliament and passed the reservation laws for municipal corporations and panchayats were not the people who were fighting those elections. So they were not worried about losing their seats to women. So that's why they could be very magnanimous and give women the reservation there. But when it comes to their own seats, then the truth comes out. And we see patriarchy in all its worst forms. We see it in the denial of women their right to representation, and we see it in the horrible things that are said whenever that bill comes up for consideration. And what I used to feel very angry about is that, you see, in politics also, like in many other things, women depend on the goodwill of men to get a ticket, to get a chance to fight an election, to go ahead. And so, being dependent on the goodwill of men, much of the time, they sort of go along with them. They don't really fight for their right to representation as their own right. And that's sad, because what happens is that a lot of women in important places have not really come out and spoken strongly in favor of reservation, because their own parties will disown them and their own parties will not give them tickets. And this is the point I was actually trying to make earlier also, that we should really not think we're in a dream world, that we get what we deserve. We don't. We have to fight for every inch of the way, because there are very, very strong vested interests that want to keep us deprived and want to keep us down. And we should never forget that. The world we live in is based on inequality, and the people who run this world love inequality. And they really want inequality to increase as much as it can. So we should have no illusions about this fight. We've been fighting for this, what was passed unanimously, you know, the Women's Reservation Bill, when it was first drafted, and it was drafted by a communist woman, Geeta Mukherjee. Let's give her a hand. It was passed unanimously. All the parties passed it and said कि बिना debate के इसको हम pass कर देंगे. But when push came to shove, the patriarchal face, the very, very, very anti-women sentiments were all exposed. And the speaker at that time, I remember, he said, it was very interesting, कि अगर मैं इन सबको ये assurance दे पाता कि आपकी सीट रिजर्व नहीं होगी तो फिर ये पास हो जाता, लेकिन इन सबको डर है कि उनकी अपनी सीट रिजर्व हो जाएगी, इसलिए वो इसको कभी पास नहीं करेंगे. And I like to admit, the question is much more than just the reservation. It's about representation in all fields. We're not there anywhere, actually. We're not there anywhere. I mean, even Trump sends his son-in-law to negotiate, who has no right to negotiate, but he doesn't send his daughter, you know, whatever. So what I'm saying is, we are not represented anywhere. That's the real. So what I keep telling women is, first face the reality. Don't imagine that you're living in an equal world. Don't imagine that we are on a level playing field. We are not. We have a huge fight ahead, and get ready for that fight. And please fight for others around you. Don't just think about fighting for yourself. Mrs. Gandhi once said famously, if I could make it, why couldn't others? Obviously, others couldn't, because they weren't the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru, who also happened to die, leaving the chair vacant for her to take. So, you know, this whole attitude, if I could do it, why not others? This is a very, very shameful and a very shameless attitude. It shows a great contempt for other people, and we should get rid of that. It's a huge battle ahead. That bill was brought to Parliament more than 30 years ago. And now we are told, well, let the delimitation happen, and then let the census happen. Why the census is not happening in our country? Another question that many people are not asking. Maybe they should. और उसके बाद फिर देखा जाएगा. So, you know, it's always कि अभी ये होने दो, बाद में तुमको मिलेगा. I think all of us have to realize कि वो बाद में कभी होने वाला नहीं है. जो आपको लड़के लेना है, अभी लड़ना शुरू कर दो, अभी लेने की तैयारी करो, बाद में कुछ भी मिलने वाला नहीं है, कुछ भी मिलने वाला नहीं है. I spoke yesterday about the tragedy of the 1,200 poor women who joined the Rani of Jhansi regiment, fought with rifles against the British, faced horrible odds, and when the war was over, they were sent back to where they came from. The same homes, the same oppression, the same closed doors, the same bolted windows. So the fight is on. Just join it. Thank you.
Couldn't be wiser words than that. It's a somber realization that abhi rasta bahut lamba hai, but we need to keep on reminding ourselves that as well. Madhureeta, through the plethora of things that you do, one thing is very clear: you're trying to help people understand, and especially girls and women, their own power. Whether it's your activism, whether it's your app, Free for Safety, or whether it's a wonderful book which is called Krishna Circus. And since I was talking about representation, it's a very well-known, popular, much loved story told through Krishna, who's a woman, and it was refreshing. It was very imaginative, and I loved it. So, within the context of representation and through all the work that you do, what is going on at the back of your mind? Is there an express intention, or is it a natural consequence of how you just look at the world?
You know, what I found, one thing that was really awful, that men speak very badly about women. And they love speaking badly about women to other women, because they know that many of those women are going to go along with them and say, you're absolutely right, she really is fat, she shouldn't be wearing clothes like that, oh God, she really looks dreadful. Please stop doing that from today, from this moment onwards. Be on a side. This is our team. Do not, please, please, please betray this team.
I'm going to get on the stage very angry and charged. That's for sure.
So, you know, I mean, Subhashini, really every point so important, you know, and really needed to be said. But to your point about representation, so it's very funny because every time I'm trying to make a film, it has, of course, these very strong female characters, and every time I'm not joking. It's a 100% statistic. My producers always try to shift it to a male. Picture chal jayegi, usko le lo, can't this be a man. And then the second thing that happens very often is journalists will always ask me, why do you make films with women? So it's like almost like they don't see me, neither the producers nor the journalists. So it's like they want to make you invisible in a way, like they want to erase your gender somehow because it's highly uncomfortable for them. So my answer always to something like this is, it's my experience. The vantage point I have is of a woman, and I am kind of like not only proud, but also sort of forced by my existence and the knowledge of what I know to write these characters. So about Krishna Circus, it's a story of a female superhero who travels back in time and saves Mother Earth. Okay.
And it's really dark. I love the fact that Krishna is dark.
Yeah. She's yeah. But to start with, I want to tell you a very interesting story that I wrote Krishna as a man because I was so tired of not getting my films made because they had these really strong female protagonists doing a number of things that nobody likes. So I sort of said, okay, this has to be a man. And then I tried to write it and half a page and 3 lines and nothing is happening. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go sit in a cafe. And I was sitting at a cafe and in Gurgaon, of all places, and in walks this very dear friend of mine who's also an international writer. She wrote Monsoon Wedding. And she came in and she sat down with me and she was writing something and she just turned to me and she said, I think you're trying to write a superhero, a female superhero. And I said, why? No, don't say that. I'll have another thing on my hands to sell, which has a woman in the thing. But when she said it, it took me exactly a week after that, because at the time it was a script to write it, because I knew that experience, because I understood that experience. So as far as representation is concerned, therefore, there are 2 ways to look at representation, which is that you go and speak to those who are making very male-centric films and say, create female representation, or encourage other creators, bring in more female creators. I want to very quickly just tell an incident from yesterday. I finished the whole session at All Saints, and there were all these wonderful girls there. And one of the girls there drew me aside just before I was leaving and said to me, she thinks feminism is a capitalist construct. And she could, can you imagine that? And I was stunned because this is a child, and she's absolutely right. Actually, it's not that it's a feminist construct. It has been that it is a capitalist construct. It has been co-opted by capitalism. So by the market. And so the thing is that as women, we constantly try to evolve our own ways of doing things and try to do things, but it will always be co-opted. But you don't have to lose what's yours, even though it's been co-opted.
Absolutely.
Define it for yourself.
And hang on to that. I surely will. GeetArsh, for all the plethora of things you do, I know which are targeted, as you told me very correctly, to help people understand the power within and feel more confident in the inside. But can I tell you, I mean, she's gorgeous, and she also talks about how to present yourself and put your best foot forward. And nobody wants to look like they just got out of bed, right? So I mean, thank you for even speaking about that, because it's supposed to be frivolous, right? But I mean, putting your best foot forward also adds to what you feel about yourself, and it helps your self-image. I was going through your series, and you must check out her page. It talks about etiquette, And there's a lot of tips and tricks in there. And one of them, she specifically talks about how to not give unsolicited advice. Geet, were you speaking on behalf of all the women in the world? I genuinely felt that way because we tend to get it at all points in time from men and women about what we wear, how we should present ourselves, things we should, which are genteel and are not. So, ये तो आता ही रहता है to all of you. So, women in power make people a little uncomfortable and who have agency and are assertive, अच्छा नहीं लगता है. So, what would be your advice? Because ये तो आता ही रहता है through the day.
I made that video because what happens is somebody giving us advice is not in our control. They have to give advice to us. But what made me make that video was primarily I want everyone to understand, since my target audience is everyone. And I speak on the series called Little Things That Matter. Because it is those little things that make us, minus the degrees, the profession that we are in, the careers that we hold, the money that we make, apart from everything else, it's the small things in us, the way we deal with people, हम किस तरीके से उनसे बात कर रहे हैं, हमारा व्यवहार क्या है उनके साथ, that is what makes us. So जब मैंने वो reel बनाई थी, मैं इतना कहना चाहती हूँ कि at least be aware of your own self. Don't fall into the trap कि क्योंकि वो कर रहा है तो मैं भी कर सकती हूँ. So just to be aware, I think it's very important for all of us to be aware of what should we not be doing rather than just focusing on what is to be done.
So I'm getting some very sharp looks from either end of the stage. So I'm feeling a bit nervous. But yes. So I don't want to exceed it. And I know there are questions. But there was a very small rapid fire thing which I want to do. Not like Karan Johar, but like a small dessert section right at the end. There are very pointed questions. So I will quickly dart them at her and at them and we're done. Okay, very quickly, whatever comes to your mind. What is the one superpower you'd give to all women? Your idea of self-care, things you love to do when no one's watching.
I think the most radical thing a woman can do is waste time. Waste time.
That is so true. Women and leisure, alien concepts. And what do you do when very pleasantly somebody says, calm down, you're hormonal? And if you don't have a handy knife nearby, what do you do?
I think my answer will be too shocking here to say that. I don't want to say it.
Those are the best kinds. All right. Thank you so much, ladies. I will open up to audience questions. Yes.
Ma'am, like you said, that of course there's gender biases and it's by far the most social, the worst social evil, of course. But if there is misogyny, is there also not misandry? Is there a battle that we actually need to fight? Because I think both the genders have privileges in different segments.
Of course, we all know there are bad women, there are bad men, there are women who harass some men. All that is there. But what is the proportion? How many men are dying of dowry deaths? How many men are being gang raped by women? So let's not get carried away by all this bullshit that we are being fed. And let me tell you, in the days when the right wing is rampant, all this is going to become much, much more evident everywhere in the media. You're going to have women saying, we are women to protect men. We are going to have people saying, oh, she cut up that man and put him into a box. Arey bhai, she did it once. People are doing it every day. So let's not lose our sense of proportion. It is an unequal world for women. Women are the ones at the end of it. I don't think gender oppression is the worst kind of oppression. I think caste oppression, and when it's combined with gender oppression, there can be nothing worse than that. So that's why I talked about compassion. That's what we have to all think about.
And I just want to add to what Subhashini said. The thing is that the consequence of misogyny and misandry are completely different. Misandry is a feeling. There's no consequence to it.
Any other questions?
Suppose a crime happens if in someone's family, then they are against the crime. But if the crime happens to anyone else, then their opinions changed. So what is your opinion on the mindset or the ideology of the people of our own country?
You see, you are absolutely right that when and it's becoming more and more so, it's really bad. The more identity becomes important, the more that we all become victims of identity politics, identity boxes, we also tend to see, okay, there was a rape. So who was the rapist and who was the raped person? And we decide on that basis whether we are angry, whether we are upset or not. That's really awful. And that's why I talked about compassion. Because compassion, humanity, thinking about all human beings having the same rights at the end of the day, that is what is really important. I know people who were not against the Gaza genocide because of the religion of the people who were getting killed. I think that's awful. I think that is unforgivable. That is absolutely disgusting and appalling. And I'm glad that a young boy has asked that question. I'm very happy that you have that sense that this is wrong. Something awful that happens is something that awful that happened, whoever it may have happened to, and whoever may be responsible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Vasu, last question.
Fantastic session, as expected, ladies. But I have a question for Madhureeta, because we're in the similar fields. Why do you think that when women have so much earning power now, they still go to theaters and support films that are extremely patriarchal and misogynistic? When women have earning power now, why do we still go to theaters and support films that promote misogynistic values? Why do we still do that?
First of all, the fact is there just aren't enough films that women can watch without being pure disgusted. Okay? They really aren't. Every film today has like some woman being, either she's too young or she's being chased or some god-awful thing is happening, first of all. And secondly, like very early in the conversation, Subhashini said something and that answers this. All women are not pro-women. They are in this kind of strange delusion that somehow, there is some third class or some third, Venn diagram section where they sit, where men love them and they get some fruits from patriarchy. They never do. And so, yeah, they support it. And the third is, I think, there are a lot of women who just watch it at the level of entertainment and leave. I've started to do that because otherwise I would just never watch a film,
As I promised, a lot to think about and process. Men, we still love you. Women, don't go kill the men in your life too quickly. It's all good. And yeah,
But we have body bags if you want.
and handy knives in all kitchens. But anyhow, I'm fired up. I'm sure you are as well. Subhashini and all of us are available for chats, and our books are also available there. So, yeah, wonderful afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and thank you very, very much. Thank you, Chakshu kholne ke liye and giving us a lot to think about.
Richa is just fabulous moderator. So please, can we give her a round of applause, please? She's just wonderful.
Thank you, ladies, for provoking that when women chart their own journeys, they do not merely redraw maps, they redefine possibilities. Now, I request Saeed Sherwani ji to please come and facilitate our speakers.
Thank you.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Karl Marx's death anniversary today. He will never die.
One big round for Shahid Bhai.